It's not often that a game brings me to tears, and in fact, it's only happened twice. Once was in the game To the Moon, which I'll be doing a video on later, and the other is this game, Before Your Eyes. And I warn you, this game is very sad. Before Your Eyes started off for me as a gimmicky type game because it uses your webcam to track your blinking. And every time you blink in this game, it progresses the story, often skipping dialogue and chunks of scenes entirely, but this is by design. Sometimes nice moments in life pass too quickly and it's out of our control. Try as we might to hold on, to cherish it, and in this game, to not blink. I wasn't sure what to expect when I started the game, and to be completely honest, I expected a gimmicky game with not a lot of depth, and I was very wrong. The game opens with a little introduction into the mechanics. You blink a few times to pass the story, and this was neat, but I had no idea what I was in for. We then meet our guide through this journey. He's a wolf on a boat traversing in a weird, dark, strange, and mysterious land. The wolf tells us that we're no longer inside our body, but what did he mean by this? He shows us glowing lights scattered throughout the seemingly endless ocean and tells us that they're souls, and that he picked us and not them, that he had a feeling, a hunch, he says. He tells us our soul was worth pulling up, but we don't really know why. In the distance, we see a tower that holds the gatekeeper, he tells us, whom he will tell our entire life story, giving us a chance to live in her magnificent land. Are we dead? Why are we here? And who is this gatekeeper? Immediately, I was drawn into the mystery of the land, and I love when games plop you into a world without too much world building. I've touched on this before. I let my mind fill in the gaps, and when done correctly, I will fully accept this world that I'm currently living in. And I did. The wolf tells us that we're going to go through our life. We will think about it from the very beginning and we will relive those moments, but tragically, we can't stay. This is where the mechanic of the blinking comes in, because every time we blink, we get sent forward in time. There's no set amount of time, it could be hours or days or years, just that will be taken from those moments in an instant. Immediately, I expected this game to present me with a beautiful story, with beautiful moments, cherished memories, ones which I could only cherish and experience for a short period of time before my eyes would give in and the moment would be over. I felt this related to my life. Sometimes life changes in an instant, and the good old days are really only the good old days when we've left them behind us. What did I get myself into? Our first memory appears to be when we were a baby, looking over at the ocean at some sailboats with a woman talking to us, asking why we're smiling and that she likes us. I believe this is our mother. I blink and this beautiful moment is gone. But I'm transported to another beautiful moment on the beach, again with our mother, and she seems so happy. Another blink. Our mother explains that our days slipped by quickly and that good days tend to do that, and I couldn't agree more. We then meet our dad, Richard, who is helping us create some art for our birthday. We put a handprint and paint on a piece of paper, and our parents tell us they want to do something like this on every birthday. We flash forward again, and we're playing with a toy piano while our mother plays on a real piano. We continue to progress the story. We take a bath, listen to our parents talk, hear them talk about me, about my future, and how life in general is unfolding. And I take in these moments that matter most to me. Our parents say they just want me to be happy. There's more blinks and more story passing. Eventually, we're painting while our parents are dealing with life in the background, and this whole game is from my perspective. And our parents always seem to make time for us to see if we're happy. Eventually, we're shown a scrapbook, and there are pictures of our mother as a child playing piano, the one that she's now given to us. She used to play with her dad. During this playthrough, I was struggling to keep my eyes open long enough. I wanted to experience all these memories as if they were my own, something many of us often wish, that we could experience our own precious memories and moments one more time. But tragically, I blink. And then we meet our new best friend, a scraggly looking cat with only one eye, and we immediately take to him, and he takes to us. His name is Ernie, and I already love him. Ernie sits atop my piano and listens to us play. We're a bit older now, and Mom is teaching us to play piano and learn some chords. The world around us has some gaps in it, with black spaces around in our memory, and which I thought was a nice touch. We may not remember everything, but we remember key parts, the important parts. We remember family and the things we loved. And this is a nice moment. But I blink and it's gone. Our dad tells us a bit about how he met our mother, and they seem to really love each other and love me. We're a happy family. At this point, I was fully invested. I needed to see where this story went, to see what happened to me, why my soul was on a boat, and where was my family. The game just started, and I already felt like it was moving too fast, just like life does. This is what I was getting from this game, that life moves quickly, and we often forget to take in the small details, to cherish the small moments, and how so many of our memories are lost to time. Things that seem so important and so cherished have vanished. What I wouldn't give to relive those moments one more time, to see those I've lost, to remember the things I've forgotten. More blinks. Life seems good. A loving family, a pet, growing up before my own eyes. And next we find out our grandfather's coming to visit and that mom seems really excited. It's been 10 years since they've seen each other, which means he hasn't even met me yet. We don't actually get to see our grandfather showing up, but there's more on that later. Piano seems to play a role in this game, as we often see ourselves playing it, and this game has a beautiful score, often playing delightful music during our journey through time. And then Ernie goes missing. I just met this cat, and I was already so attached, but eventually we find him, or, well, I mean her. She comes home after a few weeks, and she's pregnant. And in the blink of an eye, we have 5 kittens. Our parents don't seem happy. They argue over the cat. Our mom doesn't actually like cats, and she only kept her for us. She really loves us. This game felt alive. It felt like I was genuinely watching someone's memories, and with every blink, I was missing more story. But as I struggled to keep my eyes open, I understood that I can't possibly see everything, and maybe just like memories, it's okay to forget and okay to miss things. Time is really flying now, and we appear older, playing more advanced piano, and the house is changing. We're growing up. I see flashes of schoolwork and my bedroom, and eventually we're told to pack up our toys as we don't play with them anymore. This hit home because as a child, some of my toys meant the world to me, and I don't have any of them left. Things that used to be so important are just swept by the wayside. As we grow up a bit, we meet our neighbor, a young girl named Chloe, and we seem to immediately become friends. Our piano skills have also improved, and we put on a show for family and friends, and they seem very impressed. Our parents seem impressed, and I was happy to impress them. There seems to be increasing tension between our parents, though, and they argue more and make jabs at each other, but generally they still seem pretty happy, at least for now. We sit next to Chloe in class, and she writes us a note. It says, "We're in the same class. What a coincidence. Please keep in mind that while we're at school, we don't know each other, and don't talk to me ever. Love, Chloe." The teacher calls her out for not paying attention, and we whisper her the answer to the question, and the teacher calls us her boyfriend. How embarrassing. But it is a lovely moment between the two of them. We see another birthday, and our dad bought us a video game system, and next we see Chloe playing the game with us. We've become close friends. Chloe is hilarious, but sometimes hostile, but in a friendly, loving way. She tells us that if we draw her, she will kill us, but we do it anyway. But she's delightfully upset. And then there's more blinks. Our mom has taken us to a private music school. She's trying to enroll us, and we'll have to do an audition in the future. But this felt rushed to me. I wasn't ready to grow up. I wanted to spend more time playing in the backyard and playing video games with Chloe, and with every blink, I was missing moments that I wanted to explore more. Out of anger, we crumple a music piece that we're supposed to be playing at our audition and see that it's now 30 days before that audition. Later, we're practicing piano, and Chloe calls, but mom tells us we're not allowed to answer it until after we're done practicing. We answer it anyway, and mom gets mad, but our dad says we should be able to, and it causes an argument. And mom accuses dad of checking out of parenting. Chloe comforts us on the phone, and she says she's looking forward to hanging out with us and playing more video games. Later in class, Chloe hands us a note. It says she's sneaking out tonight and wants to sleep on the beach, and she invites us to tag along. We agree. Before the night, we see that it is now one day away from our audition, and we're practicing piano, and our parents are fighting. Again, things are falling apart for them. Later that night, we do in fact meet Chloe on the beach, and we're hunkered down in sleeping bags, and she says that we're happy we're there. I'm happy I'm here too. We talk about video games and vegetables and life, but she tells us she likes hanging out with us the most out of everyone at school. I struggled not to blink, and there's this beautiful moment where we use blinks to spell the words stay here in the stars above us. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay here, but I blinked. And now we're on our way to the audition. It's evident that we didn't sleep very much, and the audition doesn't go well. The professor actually stops us short and says we have to come back next year and that we need more practice and we're actually not fit for this school. Our mom is upset, but she's more disappointed that we didn't make it in. She wonders if she pushed us too hard. I blink. I'm in the hospital. The doctor says I have to stay home from school for a little while, and it seems we're going to be stuck in our room. While we're sick, we spend time drawing and eventually win a competition for drawing a little tugboat. It was actually one of my toys. Flash forward, and we're now in school for art. We're improving, and this seems to be our calling. Our teacher is very impressed with our work, showing off our paintings to others, and actually calls it a masterpiece. It's even displayed in a gallery. More time passes, and we're living in our own apartment as an artist, and a successful one. We get offered many agreements and contracts and reject most of them, and we end up doing it solo. We do it on our own. Our teacher does mention that we've made it and that we're rich and that we're a successful artist. But life is moving quickly. Mom calls and tells us she's sick, but it's only going to be for a little while and that we shouldn't worry about it. She wants us to keep painting and continue living. I blink. I'm at a funeral. It's my mom's. Our dad is speaking and he calls us our mom's magnum opus and asks us to speak in front of everyone who's came to say their final goodbyes. Our character doesn't speak, and eventually I have to blink. We're back home, and we've painted our mother, and it's become apparent that painting is no longer a priority. It's been 6 months since we've done anything, and our friend and former professor is upset with us. We've given up, and he tells us that the world will move on without us. We're falling apart. Dad calls and tells us that he's selling the house, that everything reminds him of mom. This is the house that I grew up in, the house that I've lived in through the majority of this game, and he seems lost. We go back to the house and collect some of our things, our metronome, our toy boat that actually started our art career, and our mom's music manuscripts. I blink and I'm painting again. I painted mom playing piano as a child with her father. Dad loves it, and he says he can feel her in this painting. I blink, and I've hung the painting in an art gallery. And then I hear a familiar voice. It's Chloe. It's been years. She seems very happy to see us, and she actually brings up how she kept the drawing I did of her back when I was a kid. She asks if we want to get a drink together, and I agree. But before that, we're taken back to the boat, to the land of the souls. I'd actually almost forgotten about this, or at least placed it on the back burner, and forgot that all this story was just actually a memory, and my true self was here, in this land. We are almost at the gatekeeper in the giant tower, and he asks us to describe ourselves, and we do. We answer a few questions about our life, and he passes along the message to the gatekeeper. He reiterates our life story about Chloe, about our parents, the piano, the art, all of it. But he tells us we've been lying. This is where the game took a turn. A turn that I did not expect, so prepare yourself. We slowly rise in the tower, and he tells us that we don't actually know what we're in for. What was going on? He tells us that we're ashamed of something. He calls us worthless, a rotten soul. He knows something we don't. As we ascend to the gatekeeper, he tells us that they'll see right through our lies. What lies was he talking about? He gives us one more chance to tell our story, but this time he wants the truth. Suddenly we're back. We're back on the beach with mom. The very first thing we saw, and then we see Ernie. We play piano and quickly scroll through memories that we've already lived through. But then we're flashed back to a scene from earlier. One which I didn't actually mention because it didn't seem significant at the time. There's a dark room with a telephone ringing, and initially no one answered it. But this time our mom answers. She's hit with bad news. Her father, or our grandfather, has passed away. That's why he never showed up earlier. We continue flashing through memories, and the wolf is looking for something very specific. We get to a door with a gnarly, noshing sound behind it, and once we reach the door, it lights up. It appears that our cat Ernie was killed by coyotes, a tragic memory that we left out, one we didn't want to revisit. We continue flashing and we get to a moment at night where our parents are talking and our mom says, "What's the point of any of it if he's never going to get any better?" What was I missing? Is something wrong with me? It turns out there was. The ferryman tells us that we got sick during that time, very sick. And he tells us we got sicker than healthy kids are supposed to get, and that we need to remember. We're back in our room during the time where we were sick, the time which I thought was brief. And our mom has actually given us a typewriter, and we begin typing away, something to do while we recover. Our mom asks us to write a story of, oh my God. She asks us to write a story of who we're going to become. And I begin writing. I blink, and Chloe's reading our story, and she reads a part out loud. She reads that I blew my audition for the music school by staying up all night with our first love. Our first love, Chloe. She does laugh it off, but she says she's glad that we spent the night together. Chloe begins reading more, and I blink. I blink to a hospital, going into an MRI machine. I'm starting to see where this is going, and I was speechless. Another blink, and mom enters the room. She tells us she overheard Chloe reading our story and that she would actually love to read it herself. It skips to nighttime, and dad is telling mom to come in and tell us that she loved our story, but she's too sad. She's too emotional and too sad to tell us how much she loved it. Dad comes in and does his best to comfort us and tells us that he loved our story as well. He's really doing his best. This game was not at all what I expected up until this point, and from what seemed like a joyful game about life passing too quickly, we turned into a tragic story about a child getting sick. But I needed to finish the story to see how it ended. I needed to see where Benny's story ended. Later, we're hit with a strange and unsettling visual and audio of our parents panicking, stating we're unconscious, and they call 911. The spirally visual continues, and we're brought to the hospital. But we do wake up, but in our own bed with an IV pole and a button for pain medication. But the tenderly visual sticks around. We overhear our father telling someone that our situation has taken a turn for the worse. It sounds like he's talking to his boss and eventually tells him off. More pills, more pain meds, more tendrils. Chloe calls and tells us that she knows we're faking being sick, and if we were actually sick, that we would have told her. But we angrily throw our phone across the room. Dad seems to be spending a lot of time with us, and he tells us that once mom heard us play her music on the piano, that it reinvigorated their relationship, that we brought mom back to him, and he asks us if we could do it again. I close my eyes, and we're playing piano in front of mom and dad. It's tragically beautiful. To see them listening to the music that she wrote as I play for them, with the sound of beeping hospital machinery occasionally in the background, it was quite the juxtaposition. I wanted to hold on to this moment for as long as I could, but eventually I had to blink. And we're back in bed. The tendrils are back. But every time I press the button for the pain meds, it seems to keep it at bay. Our window opens and in jumps Ernie. She's come back. She didn't actually die, and she found her way home. We got to see her again. Mom seems delighted too. What a beautiful... The tendrils are getting worse. The music is more intense, and we hear our parents talking about Chloe. They say that she lost her mother a year ago and that they don't think that we told her we're sick. We're hiding it from her. Our parents call Chloe, and she comes to visit. The tendrils actually fade away. We have a moment of peace. And behind her, we see the stars, just like when we were on the beach that one night together. And we can slowly spell out the words, "Stay here," just like we did before. We just want to stay here. Chloe tells us she wants to give us something, but she wants to be out of the room when we open it. She leaves the room, and we open our eyes, and there's a note. It says, "Dear weird neighbor kid." When I saw this note, I was welling up in the eyes, and I did again on making this script, and I am now while I'm recording it. This is such a tragic and beautiful moment, and I actually knew exactly what was written inside the note, but I wasn't ready to see it. Eventually, I opened it, and it reads, "You are my first love. Love, Chloe." This really hits me in the heart. And as these two spent a lot of time together, and Chloe lost her mom and needed a friend, and I was some weird neighbor kid who snuck out to hang out with her, and here we are, telling each other we're each other's first love. This moment brought me to tears, and I just wish Chloe had stayed when we opened it. I wished I didn't have to blink because I knew this moment would be over in a flash, and it was. Back to the bedroom, back to the tendrils, back to reality. We hear our mom in the other room, and she tells dad that she's actually written a new song on the piano, and she hasn't done that in a very long time. But he says it sounds sad and that it hit him emotionally. It hit him deep. It seems they're struggling with the truth of the situation at hand. Back to our room. It's consuming us, and eventually it does. Our mom is panicking. She says she can't breathe over and over again, and dad actually tells us to close our eyes and that it's okay. Everything fades to white, and we're back on the boat with the ferryman. What just happened? The ferryman tells us that after seeing our story, he knows exactly what to tell the gatekeeper, and that she can take many forms, and we will know her once we see her. As we float along, we see the gatekeeper. It's a form of cat, and the ferryman announces that he has a soul of a child who died before he could ever grow old. We died as a child. The gatekeeper wants to hear our story, but I blink and I'm back at home with Ernie and mom, and she tells us that she loved our story. She says we wrote about someone so intense and interesting, but she didn't really like who he became. She tells us she wrote her own story about us, about the boy she knew, and she begins reading it to us. She talks about how she dreamed she'd be a composer and eventually imposed her dreams on us, but we got sick. And then we wrote a story about the great life that we wanted to live, but that it made us forget the great life we already had, and how we filled the home with joy. We met our first love, how we gave our parents hope even when they thought they had none, and that we reminded them of who they were even after they'd almost forgotten. She then says, so when he knew he was going to go, he was okay because he'd already lived a great life, a full life, and he was everything he needed to be, just as he was. This moment means so much to me, and I often think we forget to appreciate what we have in life until it's gone, and truly show the love we have for those around us. Things may not always work out the way we wanted them to, but we have to remember that we enjoyed those moments while they were happening, no matter how short lived they were. The last thing we see is the ferryman telling us to close our eyes and keep them closed. We're being allowed in. I close my eyes and I hear my dad ask, why is he smiling like that? And mom says, he must be somewhere he likes. Watching this game back to write this, I was struck with so much emotion again. I relived the feelings I had during my first playthrough, and I really want to thank the development team at Goodbye World Games for making an absolute masterpiece. This game isn't for everyone, but it's definitely for me. It made me think back fondly on lost loved ones and memories from my childhood. I'm thankful for everything I have and have had, but sometimes we don't really think about it often enough. Remember those you lost, love those you have, and appreciate every day. And on that note, thank you for everything.